First of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation to your lovely country. I must admit there are some times that I can understand Nart a little bit better than 2 minutes ago when he's speaking Norwegian. I would like to share with you some of the things that we're trying to figure out at Radboud University about technology, which sometimes works, which for us mainly means that we think that by 2025 patients will be in the lead within healthcare. And why we really do believe this and think this, I would like to share with you within the next 20 minutes. A little bit about me. This is not an actual picture of me while I was 5, but this is the way in our innovation center we try to look into healthcare with a young spirit, not everything molded in concrete about the things that we try to do. And we use some of the tools for this. One of those is a TEDx conference that we've set up early April this year, and next year on April 2nd again, completely about the future of healthcare, where we've got a lot of innovative speakers that shared their ideas with us. But also within the Founder Institute, and we set up with Mayo Clinic a social media center. And lastly, I would talk to you about FutureMed, which is founded in Silicon Valley, and we try to figure out what exponential technology will mean for healthcare over the next 2 decades, actually. This is a little bit the schedule for now. I would like to take you a little bit to 2024 first, and next about the shift that's happening within healthcare at present. And thirdly, I would show you some of the little examples that we are working on at this very moment. And last and mainly importantly, what is this all about? Let's take it a little bit to the United States. Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis founded almost 5 years ago the Singularity University. Ray Kurzweil really thinks he could be living forever and is trying very hard to fix that with medication and living differently, but also with technology. Together with Google, together with Autodesk and NASA, they founded the Singularity University and tried to figure out what steps are to be made and how exponential technology will evolve in the next 5, 10, and 15 years. During that sessions, where they trained about 60 of the most brilliant students from all over the world, they found over and over again that healthcare was addressed over and over again. So they founded as well a track which is called FutureMed, is headed by Daniel Kraft, and find out how these things could be working. I don't have to tell you about costs going down, about computers and possibilities going up, of course. And you've seen those things about Watson, for instance. The director that is heading the Watson program told us in Singularity University 6 weeks prior to the moment that they started to dedicate Watson completely for healthcare, that they will be feeding 37,000 pages of literature about healthcare per minute over the next 4 or 5 years. Heading, in the end, to incorporate the knowledge of a physician that worked already for 4 years in a little smartphone in like 4 or 5 years. In the meantime, from May this year to now, in September they got hired already by one of the biggest insurance companies in the United States to try to figure out and have some triage and analytics done for healthcare. So this is moving very fast. Another little example is this from Ethan Bender at the right side from Berkeley University that has invented and made already an exoskeleton. The guy in this suit is Ted, already for 4.5 years in a wheelchair. With this suit, he can walk for approximately 1.5 hours already. It took Ethan about 10 years to set up this innovation. And he's working on another one that he made in, I think, 2 years, that will broaden the reach up until 4.5 hours, and a suit that almost looks like a very fat coat, for instance. But as well, only yesterday was announced that 3D printing is being used by a surgeon in the United States to make a mock-up, an actual mock-up from a scan from one of his patients, to try and to find out how to operate this patient in a proper way. up until now done with very expensive technology from radiology, of course, or mock-ups built for more than $1,000 a piece. This one only cost $77. And one of the other things that we will be seeing is the possibility of to change future and make almost every choice that one really cannot think of for now. I would like to share with you a little video of one of the teams that is working on a worldwide level to win the X Prize. The X Prize is founded in Silicon Valley for $10 million for now, for those who invent a tricorder. And I think a lot of you know and have seen the Star Wars videos over the last years, and a tricorder is a little apparatus that Dr. Spock points at a person and can exactly tell what's wrong and what's needed, of course. This isn't future anymore. We really think that within 2 or 3 years, a lot of the functionalities that I'll be showing to you in a second will be operational. And the main blockades to prevent this will be legislation, since it will be go far beyond legislation.
Technology has given us an unprecedented window into the human body. But on a day-to-day basis, we're still in the dark about our own health. We are changing that.
You okay? Do you feel okay?
What if instead of fearing the worst when you notice something out of the ordinary, you could identify the condition yourself? Getting the right diagnosis would save you worry.
It says it's roseola.
And an unnecessary doctor's visit.
Rest at home, it's okay.
Instead of hearing about a viral outbreak on the news, imagine you got an alert that was tailored to your family's needs. It would also give you advice about what to do next. What if you had a way to identify what was wrong right away?
It says it's 103.8.
A way to get all of the information you need to understand the situation. And in serious cases, you would know when and where to seek help.
It recommends taking it to urgent care.
We're building a way for people to check their bodies as often as they check their email. It's all possible. And it's only...
Oops. 6 years ago, the same foundation for the X Prize issued a prize for those who could travel to the moon. And as most of you, I think, know, Richard Branson and 2 other companies will hit the moon or fly through space within a year and a half, actually. And it's really done because this pricing system and this competition was set up. So maybe not everything that they've showed you will be possible within 4 or 5 years, but we're sure that it's traveling very fast. And then back to reality at our own university medical hospital. Picture a girl of 13 years, big brown eyes, recently had their chemotherapy at our university hospital. Talking to a doctor who's telling her that over the next 6 weeks, she should attend to our hospital every week. And she asked the doctor, well, what would you do? Would there be diagnostics? Would there be some other things, lab results? And the answer was, no, I would like to talk to you, would like to see you. And she asked, well, would you Skype with us? Since I have to travel 200 miles to come to you. And as I hope that you could imagine, we think of us as a very innovative medical hospital. And my colleague doesn't hesitate a second and he thought, well, sure I won't. So the mother asked, why not? Did you Skype ever? Yes, sure I do. I Skype with my grandson who is in Australia every week, no problem. So the mother asked, well, could I book an appointment by telephone with you? And that's one of the things that my colleagues understands, since we got some program for that. You can book a telephone appointment, of course. He says, yeah, sure, we can. And the little girl, 13 years old, big brown eyes, says, well, that's the same. Since actually it is the same in booking a telephone call or Skype. Apart from problems with safety and security, of course. But the world around us, the world outside of healthcare, is thinking of Skype and screen-to-screen communication as things that are more and more common. And it's a very promising thing for healthcare, we think. So this is a picture of my university hospital. And I love to make fun of some things, as you understand. Since our hospital is changing 1 degree a year if we really would like to change things, especially when it's from patients. How many of you are doctors or nurses here in this audience? Well, that's fair enough. How many are patients? I like to think about healthcare as an ecosystem. As healthcare, we ask you to come to us. To come to us, to our facilities, to our institutions, to our hospitals. And a lot of the things that we could do would be able to bring to you, actually, over the next years. And we hope that we could change this ecosystem into an ecosystem. An ecosystem with very big challenges over the next years. And I'm sure it's been mentioned today already, but we're facing a cost explosion, of course. Besides of that, only in the Netherlands, by 2024, we will have a shortage of nurses of 400,000. 400,000 nurses short to keep healthcare up and running as we liked it to. And the other thing is that the demand will be almost doubled, of course. And there is, in our opinion, no silver bullet and no one solution to fix this. There are options, however, like the change in media. At prime time, there is in the Netherlands actually no program anymore that isn't crying for your attention and your interaction by text, SMS, tweets, emails, phone calls to interact with the program. Who's the best doctor? Who's the best dancer? Who's the best chef? What do you think about these programs? And all of us were witness of the first Facebook revolution. That's changing as well. Luckily, we have 4 kids. One of them is from Generation Y, as you might see. The eldest, studying medicine, is 21, and those are 4 generations in between. My youngest is of the generation I like to call pilers. Since everywhere I go, I like to file stuff in these little folders and things like it. What they do is they put it on a pile. They say, well, once I need it, it's out there. And what do you know? If it's not there and it's outdated, I'll find it on the internet. Since that's the way they look at television as well. They don't watch television as I do. Looking at a big screen at the time that somebody in the Netherlands that's sending out the program thinks that I should watch to it, they watch it on the internet and they skip the commercials as well. They're using cell phones. As you know, by 2013, reach of the internet through mobile will be bigger than ever, and it's growing 8 times faster than normal. It's been used in hospitals in Europe as well, and I'm doing some research for over the last 3 years about the use of social media for European hospitals. And together with Norway, together with the UK, the Netherlands is heading this. And often we think that the United States is way ahead of us, but well, I think these figures show that's a little bit different for now. This doesn't say anything about the interaction, though. Since why are we leading in the Netherlands social media use in hospitals? For recruitment, to get people in. There is almost no interaction through social media with our patients. Who of you is on LinkedIn? Fair enough. Well, let's continue. Facebook. Right. Oh, Twitter. Would you please stop that? Please. Since today, as you might know, we've got Google+. The reason I'm showing this is one of the big pitfalls for healthcare. A lot of healthcare institutions dive into social media, connecting to Facebook, connecting to LinkedIn or whatever. Facebook, in terms of people, is a young guy of 5 years old. Google is a teener of 13 years old. And within 5 years, I don't think that Facebook will exist or somebody else is doing this. So whenever as a healthcare institution, you will aim your arrows alone on these I think we really got a problem. So we have to find out some kind of interface connecting at the outside to these changing forms of social media, fast changing. That's one of the reasons that we founded our innovation center. And this is a picture of my team. 10 minutes ago, both of them they were in the box, and now they're out of the box. With great passion, great drive, not the faintest idea which way they should have, since that's the way we like to handle things. Our department step up to us with questions and problems. Could you have a solution for this? And one of the things that I have agreed with my board is that we could fail. The main and important step that we took is that this innovation center is able to fail. Of course, we don't practice medicine, to be frank. But how could we change logistics? How could we change the communication paradigm? How could we change this metaphor that I like to use of a patient sitting in the most luxuriously limousine with genuine leather that smells like you expect it to, and a great glass blinded shade in between you and the driver being the doctor, of course. The patient has literally no idea where he's heading. So patients should take the steering wheel in the Netherlands, is often told us. And based on a lot of research that we've done already, that isn't the case, at least not in the Netherlands. But they would like to be co-drivers. Co-drivers with a map made by doctors, nurses, and peers. Peers who have the same disease as they have and looked into the same situation and tried to fix that. So as the first hospital worldwide, Radboud University made a new mission statement. We no longer put patients central, since that is one of the most hollow phrases that you could issue. For me, it's more easy with my own iPhone to book three flights up and down to Boston is for me easier than book one appointment online in my own hospital. Patient central. We ask you as patients to come to us. Patient central. So we've stepped up and we've pictured a roadmap for the next 15 years, trying to make the patient part of the healthcare team. And some of my colleagues told me, well, okay, that's okay, I get it. Let's take patients into our team. Patients who are sick, only 2% of their illness will stay within a hospital. What about our system? What about our team? It's theirs. So the things that we are trying to do in our roadmap is through the road of participatory medicine, which is the place where the doctors, together with patients based on given information prior to visits, to set up a plan, to increase adherence for plans, actually. The next step will be participatory healthcare somewhere during 2020, approximately. That's where the patient's family and the informal care will step into the team. That's also the place where things like e-health will start to boost in our perspective. Since information now is only at the doctor's side and been sent like Web 1.0. And we're in the migration into Web 2.0, Health 2.0, and I did some research about the definition of Health 2.0, since everybody in healthcare is talking about Health 2.0. With one of my fellow researchers, we found 48 different definitions in scientific literature. So how about Health 2.0? In the end of the day, we would like to have a network, not with the patient in central, but a network where the patient constantly is migrating into a different function. Chronic patients being able to perfectly handle their own disease. People who have to be diagnosed, to be helped and aided with it, of course. Those are some of the things that we're trying to set up. One of the things that we did recently, and we launched it only last week, is setting up a video conference system. Since I was puzzled with this 13-year-old little girl, I would like to Skype with you. And my colleague was telling, well, it's not secure. It isn't being paid. It's not allowed by our IT department, and all kind of barriers that was thrown into the ring. We've solved those barriers, and together with 4 companies, a few of them from Silicon Valley, we've set up FaceTalk, which is a new service for healthcare. that is able for patients to empower them, since they can connect with this from their home without additional hardware. It's secure. We can record it. And that's one of the most important aspects for us. Since only 20 to 30% of what is being told in a consultation is being remembered 48 hours later by patients. So this gives patients and their family an option to see, well, this is what the doctor said. This is what you were asking. This is the way that we should handle this. And of course, it's possible to use it for CAT scans, X-rays, and things like that. My most popular gadget is this one. It's my weighing scale. I bought it for $100. The only thing, it's connected to Wi-Fi. It's got one nut on and off. And every morning I hop on it, it sends my weight. Yes, I got a challenge. Thank you. This is my challenge, by the way, and I think I have to put on a little different and newer picture of this, but the rest of my family hops on it as well, and it sends it to his own page on your own iPhone or whatever, iPad. But the next thing that's being done, it's being sent, my weight is being sent to my physician, to my general practitioner. And he actually doesn't mind. He doesn't want to know it, actually. Up until the very moment I step down from a cardiologist, and he's telling us, well, we should review your weight and we should monitor this. For me, this is everyday practice. I hop on this weighing scale every day. And by the way, there was a very neat function in it. I could put on the check mark, use social media, and on Twitter I got almost 6,000 followers, and every morning at 6. Has this guy gone nuts? The answer is yes. But before I'm in my car at 6 a.m., people are telling me, Lucien, I would take a very light lunch today, actually. But imagine this in a closed community for people who want to stop with smoking, who want to who want to lose weight, or increase the adherence for therapy in one way or the other. We could use this kind of technology, of course. And of course, we are working with iPads. Everybody is, I think. This is a hangout space. Sure. I got another one, a little bit different from H. And this is our online hangout space for AYAs. AYAs are young adolescents with cancer in the age of 18 to 35 years. And boy, do these guys have problems. Since you're 18 years, you've got cancer, and no matter what everybody's telling you, no way you will ever get a mortgage. Or you're a young girl of 22 years and your ovarian was taken out, and your friend is running through the back door screaming, I want kids. Now, those are problems you would like to talk about relationships, about sexuality, about work. So in our hospital, we've got a physical hangout space. It's a room only for them, no docs, no nurses, only patients themselves. And they talk a lot about these things. So they stepped up to me and said, well, I have to travel 50 miles to get into this space. Wouldn't this be nice to have it on an online version? But connected to it also to social media. So we built this community. So it's a community, and that's the unique feature of it, that no doctor is in, no nurse is in. It's their place, and we only facilitate this. And it's being picked up by Forrester, actually, and Forrester made a best case review of it. One of the things that we learned, and one of the new team members that I appointed is a CLO. And I reckon all of you have a CEO or CFO. The CLO for us is a Chief Listening Officer. She's a woman of 40 at age, and the only thing she does is listen to patients with a cup of coffee or tea. She doesn't treat patients. So there is no extra bond to them and no other steps to be made. And the knowledge that we get from her exceeds all the scientific literature that we've had over 5 to 6 years about what patients really need and how we could help them. Since the thing we are doing is we write down what our medical staff thinks that should be done, and then we go to patients. And almost in 99%, it's completely different. And patients want a very simple stuff. First, I told you about it already. But my chief listening officer was only one. And how to listen to a lot of patients. That's the reason I've connected to Google. And I would like to introduce this little video of Ronnie Zeiger. Ronnie Zeiger is Chief Health Strategist at Google, also AKA as Dr. Google.
Those of us who have the privilege of going to medical school often find that our best teachers are the ones who tell us stories of the patients they've seen, and they teach us to elicit stories from our patients. Indeed, many of us were drawn to medicine in the first place by great storytellers like Oliver Sacks and Abraham Varghese, who teach us that with medicine, we can be science geeks and students of the humanities at the same time. But at some point, many of us also lose a piece of our humanity during medical training, as its long hours and short sleep teach us that being a doctor is about being efficient. Stories aren't efficient. We learn to boil patients down, to reduce them to facts and numbers. And now we're pushing doctors further away from their patient stories by turning the exercise of taking a medical history into a seemingly endless series of forms, which we call an electronic medical record. Better understanding patient stories isn't just the right thing to do. I suspect it will have a tremendous return on investment for healthcare. By understanding patients' preferences, their fears, what they do and don't understand, we can faster get to the right diagnosis, improve compliance, and probably decrease unnecessary follow-up visits. As I was talking about this question of using stories to improve patient care with colleagues like Gilles Friedman and Dave de Bronkart, Dave introduced me to Lucien Engelen, who was actually doing something about it. I'm honored to be a part of the My Health Story project with Lucien and many others. Technology is in some ways keeping us from communicating with patients the way that we learned to. But technology such as the web and YouTube can bring us back. We can now capture and share stories at scale, extract meaning from them, and learn from them. My Health Story isn't just about using technology and social media for healthcare organizations to be engaged or to be part of the conversation, as it's sometimes said. This isn't marketing or PR. This is for real learning, real research, to improve the quality of healthcare. I think that it is at this intersection of story and data where some of our most important discoveries will happen in the next few years. I look forward to learning with all of you in these years to come. Thank you.
We set up My Health Story already in 11 different languages, and people can submit their own video, their own YouTube video in their own account. By adding a tag My Health Story, it gets in a back office system, and those videos are being reviewed by medical students to prevent, of course, promotion, to prevent harassing texts and naming and shaming, since that's not the purpose of this website. And through that, we are setting up a database of knowledge of what patients really need and how we could help them. Since for us, e-health is not electronic health, but e-health, in our opinion, is empowered health. And together with two of my colleagues, Professor of Neurology and of Gynecology, we've set up an academy as well, the Radboud REshape Academy, of all of these steps to boil them down to understand how to work with it. And as mentioned already, our TEDx conference, where 5 patients were on stage, and 1,000 healthcare professionals, sometimes for the first ever, listened an hour long to what patients had to tell and had to advise to them. Next year, April 2nd, these are a few of the speakers set up already from people from IBM, from Merck, from Google, who will help with us. I would like to wrap up some of the advice that I would like to give to you. Technology in healthcare will be blowing up exponentially. The possibilities for healthcare are a lot more than maybe in other sectors. Secondly, social media will change healthcare just like it did in music industry, in finance and insurance and travel. Despite what doctors and nurses and administrators of hospitals think, they will have to get out of their ivory tower. Quantified self with monitoring will be big and will drive innovation. But despite what some people think, it won't go mainstream, since people, in the end of the day, would like to do things themselves. In the Netherlands, 60% of all surgeons face depression. 33% of the interns are facing burnout and fatigue. And in the US, the suicide rate is 40% up the average for male and 104% up for female. We are doing something completely different and wrong with healthcare. And in 15 years, we think that not only for these argues, we think that patients will step into the team. So that's where you come in. That's where you come in from technology suppliers, doing smart things, making work easy. But please, start listening to patients. You're talking to the wrong guys. I'm talking to my colleagues that are, for instance, 25 years experience as oncologists. And they tell us we know what patients need. And on a day-to-day basis, we prove that they actually don't know. Since they don't have time for this in a consultation of 10 minutes, they have to do checklists, protocols, and all stuff of that. So we have to change things like that. So I would like to conclude it with, I hope, correct Norwegian, and share with you a little video that we've set up for a movement that I founded, which is called Compassion for Care, set up for, through, and with medical students to change healthcare in a way that I've just showed you into humanity, in a humane way and a respectful way. This is what healthcare should look like. Let's keep it like that. Thank you.